a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but that beauty. Podcast show today.
Why don't you?
There's just so many. I don't know what to talk about. Cause sometimes I be wanting to be funny, but then I don't know if I should be funny or.
You got a light now. Yeah.
Sometimes I want to be funny. Sometimes I want to be serious.
Just authenticity sells.
Yes. Oh goodness, see, I'm talking on there.
Well, at least you can hear yourself. I don't want to go down. Just keep it going. Man, what I do for kids. What I do for kids. That's why the thing that we don't want to cut down. Not ideal for kids. I'm going to do another stage. There we go. That's everybody. Okay. Welcome to the WUAO Show. I am your host, Michael Phelps from the WUAO Show. As I always state, that WUAO community group is a educational and informative group. We talk about problems as we do as well. We talk about solutions on how to deal with problems. As I said, I'm Michael Phelps from the WUAO Community Show. I want the kings and queens to introduce themselves. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Rose Jackson.
Calvin Jackson.
Ray Carlo.
Okay. You want to read the topic?
Topic of the day: how has psychological pains and traumas contributed to the brokenness within families, communities, which in many cases enable the communication to speak one-on-one or as a collective? Had us abandon the art of staying consistent, which has led us down a path of hating to commit to a cause greater than ourselves. So you want me to go into the definition?
Yeah, I was kind of want everybody to understand the definition.
A definition of psychological pain is a type of pain that can be triggered or worsened by psychological factors, while trauma is a type of an experience that can cause mental and physical impairment. Psychological pain can be caused by psychological factors like stress, anxiety, depression, or emotional distress. Symptoms include feelings of sadness, grief, loneliness, and panic. Trauma can be caused by exposure to death, serious injury, or even sexual violence, or by witnessing or learning of such an event happening to others. Symptoms include exhaustion, confusion, sadness, anxiety, and agitation. Which leads to our first question of today. Why does trauma and pain seem like a thick fog that we can't see our way out?
When like I was telling you about the experience I just had, that is that trauma that keeps popping up. It comes out of nowhere. Either it's that pain of something happened before and nobody knows how to heal from it. So what they do, they mask it or they just overlook it, or they sweep it under the rug. But then until they run into that mountain again,
yeah,
and then they got to deal with it. You know what I mean? And it comes out in the worst times. Sometimes it triggers at the most inconvenient time for everybody. Like I said, that trauma put me in an inconvenient position because I had to bear witness of seeing a child had to leave as well, see two parents, seeing two couples going at it for no apparent reason. But there was a reason because, you can't, like you said, one person's perspective is their own reality. So I can't say that person's perspective isn't his reality. So his perspective was something that he projected or perceived. So he addressed it in an inconvenient time. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I would like to ask, because I know I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you kind of deal with kind of like these type of scenarios, in your case studies and stuff like that, or dealing with people. What kind of, like a thick fog, and it's hard to see your way out of it?
I mean, I've not only dealt with it with people, I've actually dealt with it in my own real life. I believe that him and we've been together for a long time, and we've even had like difficult, uh, embarrassing spats in front of like close friends. And I think that like as you mature, like I don't know how old that couple was, but I think you actually have to choose not to do that. Like you have to actually choose to have some privacy and some dignity in your relationship.
Yeah.
Like, and then also, I don't know how old that child was, but your children, they don't want to be like you said, you were like a casualty. Just imagine that child always being in the middle of that. That's why it was like by default he just got up and went to the room like here we go again type of thing. I think that you have to really make a choice not to conduct yourself in that way. Like the conflict is going to be there. Like nobody is better than conflict because we're humans.
Mm.
But like you have to choose to deal with it at more appropriate times.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
definitely don't want to be doing that in front of like company.
Yeah.
It's like unnecessary.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But I think also when they are able to be alone, like getting on the same page of what's appropriate or like the ground rules of their household and their relationship. Like honestly, if it had been me, the only reason why I would serve someone before him is because it was like a guest in my house, like a brand new guest.
Mm.
Um, however, I probably would still give him his food first. Like they have to figure out like what's the rule for that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then because if like if you don't have any, I don't know, rules or things that you have set for like your family and your partner values,
Mm.
anything can happen.
Yeah.
And that's how you go into that type of situation that they had, just simply like not establishing values, like
Mm-hmm. Was it
missing
boundaries or
community.
values? Is it values or boundaries? Is there certain boundaries?
That's both.
They're both the same, huh?
I
Yeah.
mean, could be in that regard, because then it goes into a conversation of why you didn't have your tracker on. That was unnecessary for you to know, for you to get someone, I guess.
Yes.
So it's just like, but I think going back to the original question, like psychological pain and like upbringing, I think that we're literally a lot of the time products of our environment. And until we make a choice to do something other than what has been kind of, I don't know, like if you grow up with aggressive parents, you might become hostile or aggressive yourself, and then you have to make a choice to do something other than what's been embedded in you.
Mm. So what's your thought, little brother?
I feel like with what you said, the what do you say, you're a product of your environment.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of it is deeper than that. It's really about choice, and I feel like your moral compass, where it directs you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a non-confrontational individual, then that's just not going to be something you want to participate in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've often thought about, like, you get two people come from the same household. Two kids grow up seeing the same exact positive role models or negative role models, whatever it is. But one child decides to go left, one child decides to go right.
Mm.
And they're the same gender, two boys.
Yeah.
And it's not like a crazy age gap. Mom was the same with both of them. Dad was the same with both of them. But it's the choices, and we have to remember that there are so many influences that we might not even recognize on us sometime.
Yeah.
So with that situation, I feel like the brother know that the woman was trying to be spiteful. So I feel like he knew that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he decided to. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So he
Yeah.
probably know, oh, she being funny today.
Mm-hmm.
Let me nip this in the bud.
In front of this man here now to show that.
Because she did that in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, oh, this what we own?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it. You know what I'm saying? And
they said you need to talk up. They said they can't hear you.
oh, they can't hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know, that's that mic.
Yeah. Turn it up like where's you like that?
Turn it up.
Yeah, like have it up like that. Yeah, like that.
Okay. You know, this is my first
Thanks,
time
William.
doing this.
Thanks, brother William Dortch.
I'm normally good at everything except putting this microphone on.
Can you hear him now?
But yeah, so I just think it's, you know, a lot about the choices we make and realizing that we do have a choice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like you don't have a choice. So
what do you think there, bro?
You know, while you guys are talking, first thing that came to mind is oftentimes people don't want to deal with the elephant in the room.
Yep.
You know, you know it's there, everybody knows it's there, but nobody want to address it. And when you get in the habit of not addressing the elephant in the room, it becomes routine. And when it becomes routine, then it develops into the common way of doing things.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have those constant triggers because things are not dealt with the way that they should be. So when you're talking about emotional traumas, those emotional traumas are given energy, you know, from things that haven't been dealt with. Okay, so when you don't deal with things, that is the thick fog. The thick fog is not because there's no way to see through it or no way to make your way through it, because everybody knows that, okay, just because it's foggy outside, you know, back in the day we had fog lights, you know, low beam lights, you know, that allowed you to be able to see so many feet in front of you. So you had to proceed a little bit more careful because you weren't able to see further down the road. Not that you couldn't see at all, but you had to be careful how you chose to proceed. So when you talk about choices is a matter of choosing how far, you know, how you can proceed.
Yep.
You might have to slow down a little bit. You might have to consider how the other person is going to respond to what it is you got to say. You may have to consider, you know, especially in a relationship, you may have to consider not just your feelings, but their feelings too. Because if you know them, then you know what their triggers are. And if you know what their triggers are, then you're going to be careful how you proceed down that road of having that conversation with them. There's a way to address something in a way that's appropriate that will keep it from getting out of control. There's a way that you put out a fire. There's a way you don't put out a fire.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You try to throw water on a grease fire. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to spread everywhere.
Yep.
So you have to be conscious in your approach. That's where the choices come in. So that that was my take. Just so you know where we are so far.
Well, by me, my observation, just sitting back watching them two, you know, having the discussion. When I was sitting back and just observing the body language, facial expressions, the how they was interacting before I got there. Now, before the meal was actually done, because in the kitchen she was just singing, she was doing her thing. So through my observation, now that I'm looking at, because I'm looking, trying to see how that person could have been doing something to be spiteful. I really believe unconsciously she didn't know what she was doing. I think she just thought she was doing something. I'm just from my observation, because you always got to pay attention to, like you said, the elephant in the room. You'll pay attention to the beginning. When she was in there, she was singing, she was enjoying it. She wasn't even entertaining us. She was in the kitchen doing her thing. She was away from us. We sitting in there talking. So when she did finally, she asked where's Justin was at, the little boy. He said, so he called him, then he came in. Then that's when she was in there, fixed the plate. And she brought both plates out, him and mine.
Right.
Then she came back with his and hers. I don't know if like you said, he could know her, what she's doing. But then again, just by my mere observation, trying to use a working compass, trying to navigate through the wooded area, through this, to see what was really at play. I really believe unconsciously she didn't know. She didn't do it intentionally, but I do believe he could have addressed it in a way that she could have understood. I think sometimes it is about approaches, and how you approach a situation is how you're going to get a better result.
And so it seems like what you said earlier, there were conversations that should have been had prior, because that might have been the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, because you haven't addressed this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You ain't said nothing
Yeah.
back then.
The thing,
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here thinking about how like people make relationships so difficult, and they really don't have to be. And it's like people just really don't know how to be with other people at times because they don't know how to be with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just don't. They really don't know what they want, so they don't know how to tell somebody what they want because they really don't know what they want. I mean, communication is everything. Like, honestly, I'm not necessarily against someone tracking someone. It's really about reason why they're tracking them.
Yeah.
You know, I guess
Yeah.
I'm kind of stuck on the tracking just because you brought it up, but I'm not really like if you know that your significant other has a risky job or something where they could be all over the place doing whatever, why not track them? But tracking somebody because trust was broken, that's a different story.
Yeah.
You know. Um,
Do you think that to piggyback off your question? Do you think that maybe he's seen that growing up in his household, and that he's mimicking what was introduced to him as a child?
Absolutely, I think that most of us will. Um, yeah, most of us will. Like if we, unfortunately, well, here's the thing about people. As much as we would like to be functional, most of us are dysfunctional in some way. Um, if you really just take a deeper look at yourself, you can actually act like you're not. But like, I know where I'm dysfunctional myself. Um, and it's really like intentional work to try to change areas of your life that are dysfunctional. So thinking about there's something called the 8 dimensions of your well-being, and it's like oh goodness, let me see if I name all 8. So it's like vocational, educational, spiritual, mental, emotional,
Psychological.
psychological. So you've heard this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Financial, but basically they weigh on they play on each other, and they weigh on each other, and like you can be doing really really well in one area, you can be doing terrible in another area, and you know, and vice versa. Um, I did so with them. I'm gonna say social relationship is obviously a struggle. I think it should be a little bit more focused on like what needs to what can be changed in the relationship to because that like I said, that was dysfunctional for him to be triggered in that way where he goes off in front of company. I mean, it happens though.
But there was a reason why he was there. He wasn't there just because. He was invited there.
Right.
Because of issues.
Wait a minute, you was there. You were there to be a.
No, I was there. I was called. I got off work. He said, "Hey man, stop by. I'm cooking. I grilled." And he said, "I said, okay, I'll stop by." So I stopped by and and walked in. Everybody greeted me with happy arms, and everybody was happy when I came in. So in due process, something escalated after the meal was being served. Now, how that triggered, I don't know what triggered the response that took place, but I do know that me and him had discussions way beforehand, and he was telling me about the tracking devices and all that, and I always laugh at him. I said, Danny, so as a man, how do you feel you have to track your woman down every time she goes somewhere or she's tracking you down? I said, as a man, as a man, there's certain things that we as men, we do that warrants us to be better men. So we don't have to have these type of isolated incidents. I believe that if a man is secure with himself, remember we talk about this thing called happiness. People think that other people, your mate is supposed to make you happy, and they think that everybody is supposed to make you happy, or if they don't make you happy, you just isolate yourself, and that doesn't work. Happiness starts within self. It starts with what you deem as a character issue, and then you try to fix those issues, so therefore you can be happy with self. Some people don't go into a self-valuation. What they do, they go into self-mutilation. So he mutilated himself in front of everybody because what he didn't do, he didn't think about the casualty of war, because war was his child. Now his child has to go in the room and cover his ears or turn the music up or play his video game loud so he don't have to hear the records. Not thinking that that child was a casualty of war. And those are the things that as adults, when we talk about psychological pains, these are the things that happens on a lot of households. And as us, in our generation, I noticed that our generations are trying to change a lot of things. And we're the generation, we're the bridge between all the old and the new. So it's going to take our generation to help the next generation and the elders see it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think with the triggering, he invited you over there. Whatever they had, you have not mentioned that anybody was cheating or anything. I'm just assuming it or whatever. But if you have an issue with your woman because she stepped out or something, and you're gonna be triggered when your homeboy come over to the house because she serves a plate of food to him or whatever, then he need not to come over to your house because you obviously feel some type of way because he's just another man there in the house. Just because your woman perhaps stepped out on you, that don't got shit to do with you.
Right, but it goes back to what bruh said earlier. There was a conversation that should have been had way prior.
Yeah.
So that we don't.
Because in reality, she needs to fall all the way back into a back room or something while y'all mingle and talk or whatever.
But see, the thing is that in relationships, a lot of times those are the ugly weeds of the relationship, is what I would call them. In other words, and I was talking about the process of how you actually get rid of a weed. You can't get rid of a weed by pulling it from above ground. Those are surface conversations that we have. We have a surface conversation with somebody. You are pulling the weed from above ground. You have to address the root of the issue. You have to bend down, get a good grip on that weed, wiggle that thing up, and pull it up by the root. Because if you expect to come back and that weed not have grown back, you have to have pulled it up by the root. Well, if you come back each time that you pull that thing from above ground, you're going to come back, and it's going to be a consistent job for you to have to keep pulling that weed because the root system still exists. And that's what I'm saying about conversations. Real conversations, hard conversations, are those conversations where you have to sit, you have to listen, you have to endure the fire of the conversation by dealing with the root of the issue. But see, oftentimes people don't want to deal with that. They just want to say, you know what, forget about it. I'm done with it. I don't want to have a conversation. I'm good, you good. Let's just move on. That's a mistake each and every time because, again, those are those conversations that are not had. And when they're not had, then you're going to have those volcanic eruptions that are going to occur each and every time. This is just like when you did this. This is just like when you did that. This is just like when you did this, and this. They're going to keep piggybacking all them situations that came about because you never really had the real conversation.
Never.
Well, and a lot of time this goes into the art of communicating. A lot of us don't have, in our community, we have poor communication. I always say there's 3 C's in the vocabulary in our culture that has been lost and mistranslated, or is lost in translation and interpretation. The 3 C's of life that what I think that we lose in translation is how we communicate, how we stay consistent, and how we commit to things. Now, when a relationship is important to you, you will commit beyond boundaries without measures. If you know how to be consistent, you know that the relationship is going to flourish because you are putting your best foot forward. Then as well as you communicate all the things that you dislike and like, Now we have a foundation. So then that gives us to the 5 P's. That's proper preparation prevents poor performance. So once we properly prepare, like I said, when we're in the house, we would never have poor performance.
Yep.
But since he didn't properly prepare, or they didn't properly prepare for company, guess what happens every time?
Yep.
This type of situations occur.
Yep.
So they have to learn the art of communicating in the most facet way. Some people don't know how to articulate viewpoints.
But I guess I'm just saying, like, never should we ever, like, on purpose or haphazardly humiliate our partners.
Exactly.
You know,
True.
in front of
100%.
people. It's just like, well, why, you know, there's something to trigger about the plate of food in here, and then you go into why the tracker was it on today. That didn't have nothing to do with nothing.
Well, I think,
But like you said earlier, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. You know, it was like,
that was
okay.
it.
And while we on this subject, let's talk about why you didn't have that tracker on there. I mean, that's really what.
But that comes tick for tack now.
And it not to cut you off, but it has a lot to do with what my wife said earlier. The relationship you have with yourself. I think I'm a strong advocate of the most important relationship you have is the one you have with yourself.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
Because if I have to know how I'm going to react to loud music. So that means when I'm in the car with you and you got your 15s knocking, I'm not tripping out because it's loud. I'm aware that, okay, I can deal with this. And I'm honest with myself. A lot of us are not honest with ourselves because it's not cool. There's what I call the go along to get along.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, man, you know that's all good. And then as soon as I'm gonna do something, you be like, I shouldn't let this nigga do that. But you're being phony. You're fugazi. You're fraudulent. However you want to use it, you're not being authentic. So you have to know yourself.
Let me read some of these comments. William does, okay, he said, what's the topic? What's the topic about? It's on the heading, Brother Dorch. And he said he think your name was, what is he? I know he said something about. He said, was your name Hot Sauce, aka Knowledge?
No.
Okay, no, that's not him. That's not him, bro. Then he said, people are so mad at each other. Then he said, you got to focus on what makes you happy. Then he said, that's me. I think everyone should be happy. And then he said, people do find more reasons to hate each other than to try to understand, build, and advance. Oh, shoot.
So that comment right there, I think that's a very important comment because the state of our people, not black folks, but I mean people in America right now, we're divided and you can see it, and there's so much tension when at the end of the day, what we speaking about earlier, you don't want nobody disrespecting you, so you're not going to disrespect this individual. We have to remember that and keep that at the forefront. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean that is the beauty of communication.
Yep.
You know, you said how the importance of knowing where you are. If I know where I am, I'm going to tell you where I am.
Yeah.
And if I tell you where I am, okay, then that means that equips you to be able to respect where I am. If I'm a person that don't like to be touched, I'm gonna tell you immediately, I don't like to be touched. Okay, now you know, because if you're a touchy person, you like that, because I'm kind of like that. I come up here, pat people on the shoulder, you say, you know. But if someone tells me they don't like to be touched, now I've been informed about them. Right. Okay. Now I'm gonna respect their boundary. Right. Okay. Because I want them to be okay in our interaction. Okay. If I don't give two cares about what you just told me, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yep.
Okay. Now when I do it anyway, now we're in conflict. Why? Because I didn't respect the boundary that you set. But if I don't even know about the boundary and I violate the boundary because you didn't choose to communicate to me about your boundary, am I at fault or you at fault for not communicating to me about your boundary? You see what I mean? That's where relationships cross because, I'm a firm believer. How can two walk together unless they agree? Agreement comes with communication. Agreement comes with information. Agreement comes with understanding. Agreement comes with a willingness for me to understand you and a willingness for you to understand me. And if you unwilling to do that, then you don't have a relationship anyway.
It's two things.
Because that person's not even trying to listen to you. You're not trying to listen to them. You're both selfish. You're both self-centered. You're both thinking about yourself and what makes you happy. Forget how you feel. It's about how I feel.
Mhm.
That's relationships like that go this way, not this way.
And people like that should be alone.
Yes.
Or single.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, when
You have no business being with someone or trying to.
Right, because you don't understand that.
Well, the thing is that sometimes like people don't understand themselves in the sense like everybody's human, so everybody want to have like a sexual thing. That's fine. You should just have sex with people. You shouldn't be trying to have a relationship.
but and we all can attest to this, since we can remember from growing up, the idea of you gotta have a boyfriend or girlfriend, this has been like, you're not complete if, and so I tell my son specifically, I'm like, yo, you need to focus on becoming the best version of you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta, because, and I learned this the hard way. If I'm down here in my life and my partner is here, how can I be of servitude when I'm
You're a half cup, you're a half glass filled.
I can't really offer too much
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not giving myself enough.
Yeah, because you're pouring into her,
But I'm not
but
really
not pouring in.
I'm not even pouring into her because I don't have it. That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
I haven't even done the work on myself.
The stuff that what I'm pouring in is fake.
Yeah.
Well, that-
You're hypersensitive about it. Because you're gonna feel like you're constantly reminded that you're not there.
Absolutely.
And you're gonna be envious of where she is.
And when you look at, and when you and we talk about this all the time, when you look at the social aspect of it, it's telling you have a comparison in your pocket all day long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Telling you, oh, nigga, you ain't doing enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You see what this nigga did?
Right.
So how do you, if you fall into that, sometimes you have to go in the mirror and just tell yourself.
This here, we talking about getting in this and looking in here and becoming envious of all this stuff that's in here.
Because you're looking for validation outside of yourself.
That might not even be real.
There we go. But the lines of reality and non-reality have been blurred so much that AI is so cold now. It's got me thinking like, did Denzel really say this? No, Denzel ain't say that, man. What are you?
Right.
You know? But that's what I mean. If you're not aware of yourself, I used to tell my kids, I got to show you what real Jordans look like. So when you run out in the street and they try to sell you some fake ones, you know, this is authentic. This is what love is. This is what compassion is, concern, real intimacy. This is what it looks like. It's not what they saying it is.
And I'm trying
So
to figure out why my dad buys some fake Jordans.
come on. That's not what we're talking about. It's an analogy.
And you know, and to give you that for the misinformed and the uninformed, the misinformed and the uninformed people has always have lost translation because they're not properly informed or they're misinformed. So what they do, they look for snippets of information and then they run with it. I call it prematurely and immaturely teaching something that you just learned.
But I got a question.
And we do that. A lot of people just started to go to church and they gave up a lot of stuff. So then they want to run out and start teaching what the message of hope, a message of faith, a message of this, because it feels good to them because they finally made a change in their life. So now they feel like it's operable to change, to give someone else something when you prematurely and immaturely haven't even went through the trials and tribulations to prove yourself, to say that you're worthy to even speak on something until you 100% got it down pat.
Do you think they know that? That's
No,
my question.
they don't.
I didn't think so.
They're misinformed and uninformed.
Yep.
That's what I call them.
That's actually a common theme in individuals who stop using substances.
Yes.
Or individuals who get in the gym for the first time or again or something, where they just like they have the formula to success and it just feels good to them and want to give it to somebody else. But in reality, once you start giving away, so basically thinking about the cup, okay, you're filling your cup is 3/4 full, half full. Okay, so since it's filling up, I'm gonna give people some of this stuff that I learned. No, get your cup all the way full first before you want to give something to somebody.
Yes.
Right.
You're not even ready to give nobody anything.
Well, I mean, the thing is that if parents thought like that, they'd never give their children anything. It's you do learn as you go. I mean,
That's true.
There's not a book on life. So
Right.
you know, it's as you learn things and as you experience things, you can say, hey, I've been down that road. You know, I've been down that road. You might not want to go down that road because this, or whatever the case may be. But if you know, some people will never move because they're waiting to be perfect.
Understand?
Okay? And that in of itself is not a good thing.
Absolutely.
You know, because when did you ever reach perfect?
Yeah.
You know,
that's
exactly. So you know, when it comes to teaching, it's imperative that you say, look, when you get something that's good, okay, and you want to share that with somebody, it's okay to say, hey, well, this, you know, I don't have a whole lot of experience in this area, but this is what I do know, or this is what I can give you.
That comes with a self-awareness and humility.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That comes with a lot of humility,
Yes.
and that is something that, see, the Webster's dictionary definition of it means to think lower of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's really not what we mean by being humble.
Mm-hmm.
It means understanding that you are this much a part of something way bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We all, how they say, each one teach one.
Yeah.
I can learn something from everybody sitting here.
Right.
And I pray that I'm of service to everyone sitting here.
Right.
Yes.
OG told me, I want to be used.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Don't misuse me,
Yeah.
but use me. Let me have a purpose in your life, because I want you to have a purpose in mine.
100%.
And so I think we got to get back to that. We have to have the value of ourselves.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because if I don't know, you could have a diamond ring on and you don't even know
The quality of
that
it.
thing.
Right.
$2 million ring.
Let me read this comments. Brother Dorr said, it's 2025. Relationships need to be updated or redone. Then he said, baby girl is yawning her butt off. Then he said, she's got the best mic. So I guess they can hear you clear. They can hear us. Oh, that's crazy.
Now we go to question number 2. Question number 2: has our traumas and pain been all the reasons for homes being broken?
Yes, because it stems from childhood. A lot of the things that we're dealing with within homes today are a direct result of what happened as a child. Now, how a person get to a certain stage or a certain level in their life where they understand that they can't allow this trauma to affect them moving forward. Now, that's where it becomes, you have to be skillful, and you have to go into a state where you got to ask you got to go to a state of vulnerability where you can say, I'm vulnerable, and I need to go to someone who can give me professional advice, not someone that's just gonna give me advice.
Mhm.
Because sometimes we run to the wrong crowds to get advice from, and it's not serving us no purpose. It just keeps us in our traumas. Sometimes if you have a bad relationship, why would you run to single people who has no luck in good relationships? But you're listening to them for great advice. Now, they don't get me wrong; they can speak some good stuff because when everybody is trauma bonded. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And people can gaslight you and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
And they trauma bombing you at the same time. So I always ask myself, so who is the source? I always go to the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, and why. I'm listening to this person. They got to give me a reason why. Who are you for me to listen to? Why am I listening to you? Where are we taking this? When have you arrived to the point that you said that you arrived to? You know, so these are the things you have to ask yourself. And I think that we don't question the narrative. We just jump into the solution. We just jump into the situation.
Mm-hmm.
We need to figure that thing out. I think that's what you were just talking about.
I think that taking, like, I guess using your examples, since you brought it up, like taking advice, like if somebody in a relationship or a marriage, taking advice from a single person or a divorcee, I guess we just really depending on who that person is, really. I mean, because that person can be single for a reason because they done left a situation where they were being abused.
Yes.
You know, but at the same time, they're gonna have some strong feelings, perhaps about your situation because of the situation that they just left.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take that into consideration. I think that we should be just a little bit more protective over our information and what we share with people to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't need to be advised by people. I have about my parents and like 2 people that I talk very deeply about things,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about it.
Yeah.
Because those people are highly trusted by me.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Well, Sharice Gregory said, she said, that doesn't mean that they don't have the knowledge
right,
to teach. And then she said, choose wise counsel. Then she said, facts. Then Dort said, I wish that each one teach one was a real thing
Yeah.
in the Black community. Yes.
Well,
It very well can be.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is that we're so guarded and uninformed, meaning that you don't know good information from bad information. And that's important because oftentimes we engage and we trust somebody simply because we respect them, not necessarily because they have good information, but simply based on your relationship with them. So you think whatever they say is golden, right? And it may not even be the truth, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be mindful. I mean, something that I've learned, when you go through things, since we're talking about traumas, traumas don't have to rule your life.
Mm-mm.
Traumas don't have to be don't have to take a permanent residence in your life unless you allow it to. And that's what you're talking about, choices. But it's not. But you don't disregard them as if they never occurred either.
Right.
They happen. Okay. So, but the question is what you learned from what happened. Okay. So when you're thinking about good information, bad versus bad information, it's a matter of, and just like what your name is?
Sharice.
Sharice. Okay, sorry about that. What Sharice said, like you said, you gotta be selective. You gotta consider the source and what it is that they're offering you, because oftentimes someone, like you said, they can trauma bomb you with their problems, and they enter into the same agreement, the same mindset as you. While you being hateful, they get in there and start being hateful with you. Okay, you don't need somebody like that. But if somebody has been through something similar and they've walked away with a good lesson that they can share with you, yeah, I went through that. This is what I learned from that. This is how I was able to recover from that. Maybe this information can help you. I would say that that's probably somebody you want to listen to. But if they want to be hateful, just as hateful as you are, and just as angry as you are, just as emotional as you are, well, yeah, then you don't want to talk to somebody like that, because they're going to keep you sick.
Yeah.
They're not going to help you get well, if that makes sense.
Well, and the Bible says, faith comes by what? Seeing and hearing.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful what we see and what we hear, because this goes into the mental state, and it goes into the psychological. As we talk about psychological and mental, we forget about chemical. There's a lot of people who are chemically unbalanced, which causes a lot of people not to recover fast enough. You know how they said in school that there's people who have Down syndrome where they don't learn fast enough. It takes them a while to learn, but they can articulate words real fast and real easily. But when it comes to processing, it takes a while. It takes them longer. So we have to always include all of these factors into our development because we are talking environmental. And a lot of times we forget about the toxicness within an environment that can cause people to not grow. Because you know how they say, when they say radiation stops growth or it enhances growth.
Yep.
So it can make you grow 4 or 5 arms, or it can make you lose 4 or 5
And
arms.
that's what I was
You
that's
see
what I
what I
was going to
mean?
say, because when you said the growth, how are you growing? Are you trying to grow in what way? And so I guess what I wanted to say was, when you mentioned trauma earlier, yes, it does happen, but I heard once that the trauma is not your fault. The healing is your responsibility.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think that's more imperative, being able to, but it goes back to what we were saying earlier. We have to be able to recognize what it is. And and a lot of us, like, the question was, is this the trauma a reason why the homes are
broken?
100%. I mean, I can't see how it's not. You can see a direct relation to if the man is not in agreement with God, then it's going to be hard for the woman to be in agreement with the man.
Yeah. And the children be in agreement with.
And then now the kids is like, mom ain't talking about shit, daddy ain't talking about nothing. Now we got dysfunction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just.
And let me read this one. Let me read it. Okay. Cherie said, she said yes. William Dorr said a dude in white is on point. And then Cherie said it's very important. And then it says someone on here, not someone on BS laugh aloud. Then William Dorr said, if I knew the topic, I could have shared this a long time ago. But my phone battery is about to die. It was good talking to y'all. I'm glad y'all back, cause well, the topic is right when you first go in. It should. I wrote it on the top on what the topic was. I don't. Maybe I send it to you though, fam.
It sounds like we're talking about psychological pain impacting
Traumas.
family structures and relationships. So it kind of sounds like we've been talking.
Yes.
Oftentimes, what it boils down to, there's this book called Cognitive Behavior Made Simple. It's by Seth Gilliam, and talks about how there's a process. There's an event that occurs, and then there's a thought that you have because of that event. And your thought, because of that event, then leads to your emotional response, which then, after your emotional response, comes a behavior. And so when you think of that, often the problems that we have, or where the conflict comes in with our interpretation of events. Okay. So,
and translations.
And it's what? And so then you have to ask yourself, okay, why do I believe what I believe, or why do I think the way I think, and why do I, that your core beliefs, everyone has a core belief about how they think life should go. But what you were talking about earlier, nature, and then you talking about nature versus nurture, nurture is how one is raised. Nurture has very much to do with the environment. But then you also brought up the two of the same gender, raised by the same mom, raised by the same dad, but yet made different choices because it was all in how they chose to allow their environment to affect them, and how they, as individuals, chose to interpret things while in their environment.
Yeah.
No two people interpret things the exact same way, but there is yet still beauty in collaboration where we can sit like we're doing today and share viewpoints that people can benefit from, because it's okay, well, and they can relate to each and every one of us based on viewpoints as well, and grow from that, or get fed from that. But oftentimes what happens is that, like you said earlier, children are casualties sometimes in their environments. Why? Because they're children. Okay, so you said when you wonder how adults get to where they are, it's because of once they were a child, and they were a child, maybe exposed to the exact same thing by their parents, who were exposed to the exact same thing by their parents. And now you're talking about generations of things that get passed down from generation to generation to generation, and then you wonder why they think the way they think. But at some point, where it becomes imperative that we ask ourselves, why do I believe what I believe? Just because it's been passed down to me doesn't mean that I have to believe it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, and that happens when, like you see children that grow up Baptist, and then when they get to a certain age, they become Catholic, or they become Muslims, or they become Presbyterian, or whatever they want to become. Because see, they got to the point where they're making the decision on their own. But I always want to go back to the would-haves and could-haves, because those are important. Would-have, we're talking about would-have. If I would-have learned this at a young age, I could have been something different at an older age. So those are would-haves and could-haves.
Yeah, but that's a lonely road.
That's
going off of would-have and could-have.
And those are processes.
Yeah.
And the reason why you use them, because like when he was talking about last week, there's a thing about electrical poles, light poles. So you look at two light poles outside, and you see a wire looped over to the next one, to this one. Now, when that wire goes from that pole to that pole, that means that there's potential. It has potential to reach from this pole to that pole.
Yep.
But if you cut that wire in the middle, it loses the potential. That could be a mental state.
Yes.
That could be an emotional state.
Yes.
That could be a psychological state.
Yes.
That could be a chemical state.
Yes.
It could be a trauma that hurt somebody. Because we always see with the thing I learned about when I was studying psychology is that there's a difference between learning proper prognosis and proper diagnosis. Sometimes we'll go into a community where we'll deal around a lot of people. We always expect people to think like we think. That's improper prognosis and improper diagnosis.
Okay.
Because what you have to do, you have to always be cognizant of who you're dealing with.
Yes.
So once you figure out who you're dealing with, then you can properly prognose them and diagnose them.
Yeah.
And that takes relationship.
Yeah.
And once you get the proper relationship with people, then you can start to talk. You sit down and have a conversation. Because I had a conversation with my son one time, and I'm not to say nothing negative about it. My son could talk to me, and he sounds very cognizant, very, good like that. But then when I ask him to write something down, I'm asking him to repeat himself or do something. I could see the dysfunction. I mean, not the dysfunction, but I could see the slow morality of him. His motor skills is not up there.
The disconnect from what he's saying.
And for him to catch up where he's at,
and
for him to catch up where he's at, it takes him months before he recognized that. For his mobile skills to catch up what he said.
Yeah.
So I do know that, and I'm not saying I'm not making excuses. But I'm just telling you, sometimes proper prognosis and proper diagnosis, it will save our community.
But what you said was that relationship is required for that. And so when we were speaking earlier, and I was talking about the relation that the officers should have with the community, because if I'm an alien somewhere, how do I don't know how the functions and the operations of what goes on around here. So I don't know the customs.
Yes.
And if I'm not aware of them, I could make something go from, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so like you said, with relationships, but But again, it goes back to having humility,
Mm-hmm.
having self-awareness. You know, we keep coming back to that. I think it's like
Yeah.
self-awareness and humility are what some of the components that I think are absent
Yes.
with a lot of us.
And that's what, and I'm glad you said that, because what you're basically saying, why go into a construction site without a toolbox
Or a hard hat.
or a
Why?
hard hat?
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
Why?
Yes. So
Why?
and you need to have the colors on, because danger is always around. So you always make sure people can see you when you come around the corner.
Yep.
So there is always, you know, we talked about that last week, didn't we? You got to have the proper uniform on and have the proper tool, because if you grab the hammer when you only needed the screwdriver,
Yeah.
you're gonna do more damage.
Yeah.
You are doing good.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Can I share this with you were talking about earlier, the cognitive, the ABCs of cognitive behavior. So just really quick, A is activating events, B are our beliefs, and C are the consequences of it all. And the reason why this is important is because A, B, C. I think the beliefs part is the most important, because like sometimes when there's a belief, like people are just stuck in the beliefs, and the beliefs don't change until something else happens for them to change. Like you really cannot change a person's belief until they're like proved wrong, or you go through an experience that changes your mind.
Yeah.
Well, or they, you know, you touched on something earlier, you talking about your son. Sometimes when people say things, they only have knowledge.
Yeah.
But they haven't reached a level of understanding. Until you reach a level of understanding, which is what we talked about, even connects wisdom. Meaning that you reach a point where not only that you know something, but now you know how to apply it.
Yeah.
There is the disconnect.
Yeah.
That and oftentimes people know a lot, but they understand very little.
Yeah.
And because so they talk, when they speak, they sound like, "Ooh, wow, they know a lot."
Yeah.
You know, you're ahead of your, you know, you're ahead of your time. You know, you know, they used to call those kids what they call precocious. I think, you know, they said like they're knowledgeable about things. You know, just because you've been raised in a particular environment, people have exposed you to things, especially depending on who your parents are, grandparents, guardians, whoever. Because not all kids stay with their parents. You know, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But whatever you've been exposed to, you've probably accumulated a lot of knowledge along the way. But that knowledge at some point will change to wisdom when one has experienced enough of life to where they now know how to apply what they know. But until they reach that point of that crossover, or what I call transcending, getting over to the other side of knowledge. Knowledge is just knowledge. It doesn't do you any good if it never matures to the point of application. People, I mean, you brought up people in church. You brought up, because you got people who sit there who've only accumulated a bunch of knowledge. They can tell you, quote this, quote that, quote this, quote that. But if you ask them on how to apply that, you ask them an example of how to apply that, like, they can't tell you. Yeah. Because they don't know. They haven't reached that level.
And that's what that's crazy you said that, because we always talk about how we're in a phase now where anybody's an expert. Anybody, you know, well, I'm a relationship counselor. No, you just pick bad niggas, shorty. That's all you do. You not a relationship counselor.
Yeah.
You don't know your nigga picker is fucked up. And so the fact that people want to have a emotional connection when they see, like, yeah, I feel the same way. There go that feeling again.
Yeah.
I feel what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah,
but what you feel and what's real could be two completely different things.
Right.
And you know the funny part, when you said that, it always goes back to, you know, I always use a lot of different terminology. It goes back to those, because people would cling to people who feeds into their deadbeat emotions and their fickle feelings.
The lower self.
So when they got that deadbeat emotions and their fickle feelings, they those people are the ones that cling. They cling to.
Signing off on your bullshit.
Yeah, you know. But you know, I was like I said, you know, when I say Prinos and Prinos and Dinos, the reason why I use those terms is because when I hear people in the community who would dust their shoes off and leave someone out because they feel like they should be where I'm at.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot in our community. And the reason why the community is not healing is because we think everybody is able to be cognizant of what they're doing. Did you know that there's a guy that disappeared? They couldn't find him for a month. He was not cognizant of
Yeah.
where he was at. But if you would have ran up on him, he might have had a good conversation with you, and you might have thought that he was in the best mind. So you always have to be cognizant about who you running across and how you, and then pay attention. A lot of people don't know how to read a room when they're talking to people. So what they do, a person would sit in the room and he would quote you scriptures, he would quote literature and all this stuff, and just keep going on and on and on and on and on, and not knowing that he lost you at the first sentence.
Never had
you know, exactly. But he think he got you.
Yep.
And because he think he's spilling something, and he think, oh yeah, they loving me. It's in his head. Thank you. And there is delusional people here.
Yeah, and it sounds like wah wah wah, like the teacher,
like Charlie Brown. Yeah.
And, you know, and I remember me and him was talking one time. We was talking about sometime with your own kids, you can give them all the wisdom. I always say, I want to go back to the first thing first before I go to that. Knowledge and understanding has to be intimate. They have to make love and birth wisdom. Mm-hmm. They have to have an intercourse. That's how wisdom come about.
Yeah.
So when I sit there and try to tell my son something, he ain't gonna listen to me, but he'll come over there and say something to him. He'll listen. He got his full undivided attention. Now, why is that? We ask ourselves, why is that? Why would he listen to him versus listening to me?
Emotional baggage.
I think that's it. That's it.
That's what it is right there.
Yep.
It's just like, when we were young, parents would say the same thing. I've been telling you that for a long time. You go over to the neighbor's house and come back like
Yeah.
Like, no,
Yeah.
And it's like, they said the same thing you were saying. But when you said it, because of all the emotional baggage, their ears were clogged. But when someone else said it and there was no emotional baggage, their ears were open. That's the only difference. It's not that they say anything better than you, presented it better than you, or it was just simply because, and that's a lot of people function just like that.
Yep.
It's a reason why wives, husbands have problems in their relationships, because the husband can be saying the same thing. Wife will go someplace else. Their friend will say something. Oh, you won't believe what so and so said. He's like, I said the same thing. Why is it you can go over there and hear, but you can't hear?
Pastor can tell you that, and you
right. So, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Wife can feel the same way. She's been trying to get her husband to understand something for the longest time. He'll go over there and one of his homeboys and say it. All of a sudden he got this epiphany. Man, baby, you won't believe. Blah blah blah. Like, what? I've been saying that same thing. Why? Because oftentimes we are clogged up emotionally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And emotions block the uptake of information.
Yeah.
Anger, sadness, depression, anxiety, all those things can affect if you allow it to, because we all have a sense of agency.
Yeah.
We all have we can control it if we're conscious of it. It's when we live in the unconscious. When we're unconscious of what we're doing consciously is where the problem is.
Yeah.
Because we unconsciously fall back into our habits. Mm-hmm. But consciously, when you make a deliberate effort to address what you know about yourself, you say, okay, I know that I got a problem with this person.
Yeah.
But let me hear what they're saying before I pass judgment. How often do we do that?
Yeah.
Rare.
How often do we
Very
say, hey,
rare.
let me hear what they're saying first before I pass judgment? No, those feelings gonna come first. Look, I ain't trying to hear nothing you saying because you ain't got no credit with me. Mm-hmm. That's that lack of relationship. Yeah. Man, I don't know you, so look, what you saying, miss me with that. But if I got a relationship with you, I'll stop, I'll listen, I'll give you the time of day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But in our community, that's a problem. Okay? Because guess what? Life doesn't function that way.
No.
You're not going to have a relationship with everybody you come
No.
across that's going to give you information that you need. So therefore, sometimes time is of an essence. So because of the shortage of time, then it's important that you listen so that you can hear, because why? With information, you can make decisions. Without information, you can't make decisions.
But when there is intentional misinformation being given to you,
Yes.
now you like, well, I thought I could run the red light.
Right.
Where'd you hear that?
Right.
That's some bad information. Whoever told you that, they fed you poison.
Right.
Yes.
And so I think we have to be able to, and this goes back to what we were saying earlier, us as the men, we got to be like, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
And then it's got to, so then he tell me, I tell you, you tell him, and then we keep this going.
Yep.
And then that's just how because we have to give the right information.
Yeah.
Because we're, like you said, we can be articulate all they want, but if your actions, I feel like, look at the actions of the individual. You know what I'm saying? Because they could be like, oh yeah, how you gonna listen to a trainer that's out of shape?
Oh, 100%. I get
and I understand that he might have been the ex-NFL, but man, you gotta look like DK Metcalf for me to listen to you on some training.
Yeah.
You gotta do something show me something that I haven't seen.
Well, that when I think of that makes perfect sense. Now you're talking about discipline.
Yeah,
Okay?
we lack.
If you're showing me you have a lack of discipline, you can't talk to me about discipline. Okay, but if I can see that you are the picture child of discipline, now you can talk to me about discipline, because I'm like, oh man, you got it, hey man. So you now you tell me where you got it from. Now we can talk, you know. But that's just like parents, exact same way, you know. Just like when the relationship is broken, then you will not be able to reach your child.
No.
Because of the broken relationship. So now we're talking about that. We're back to the weed again. Okay. How do I repair a relationship that has been broken? Let me get to the root of the issue. Once I address the root, now I can address the weed.
Yeah.
Now, when I talk to you about other things after I've addressed the root, now your ears are open. But if we never have the conversation that we need to have, you won't be able to have the conversation with me that you want to have, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You know, and one thing I'd like to add to that, in all relationships, children that don't listen to their parents ain't because all relationships are broken. I want to make that clear too.
Yeah.
Sometimes kids just choose to, because it's a either influential thing, or it's they feel more comfortable. They feel more comfortable with talking to somebody else versus their parents.
Yeah.
So you have that play too.
And they have their own autonomy.
And
they have their own mind.
Yeah. So I always say, there's a difference of having square table conversation and round table conversation.
Yeah, I like that.
Say when people have a square table conversation, just remember, you can start a conversation on one point of the table, one end of the table, then you have to get to the next end, and it stops. Right. Then you got to pick it back up and get to the next end. But if you sit at a round table, that's 360 degrees of understanding. Mm-hmm. That means it's being reciprocated. Yeah. So that means that everybody's learning. Yeah. So that's a process. Some people only have square table conversations versus round table conversations. So we have to make sure we get people to understand. Let's move away from the square. Even within the square, there's a circle inside and a rectangle. Yeah. We can do anything on that square table, but we will remember we're still looking for the 360 degrees of understanding.
That's where that humility comes in.
Yes. So let us try to articulate that into our growth and our development.
Yeah. Question 3.
Yeah.
Moving on schedule. Has the effects of slavery in World War I, World War II been properly prognosed and diagnosed to our trauma and pain? If so, what steps did the government do to help in our ancestors' curing?
You know that meme where the dude pulled the list out and he drop it and that's what this is. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the meme where it's 1,000 reasons.
Is there a long line?
Yeah, it's a long list.
Yeah.
But and I've spoken to my wife about this ad nauseum. Where do you begin? You know what I'm saying? Because we can go all the way back to buck breaking,
Yeah.
which is a little, I ain't gotta go there, or you can go back to what happened when black men came home from World War II with the
Heroin,
nope, not even that, with the what was the stuff? The housing.
Oh, the red line and all that.
And where they was not allowing black men access to the GI Bill.
Yeah.
You just fought for the country.
Yeah.
And you see your white friend whose life you saved on Monday and he saved your life on Tuesday. Y'all both come back and you guys are American heroes. And he's given the opportunity to get free education and get a home, which everybody knows that's the quickest way to build generational wealth.
Yeah.
Now you a homeowner. They wasn't doing that for us. So when you talk about the trauma that is associated with that,
What do you think the government did to help us, not them?
well, what you mean to help?
Because the question was, what did we think? You know, we did. This is our
We
opinion.
thought welfare helped us.
Yeah.
We thought
that was a lie.
Yes.
That was a lie. You take the man out the home, and it was like this was the game they ran on him. How much money you making this month? I make $2,000. My husband makes $2,000. Well, how much of your expenses you got? They about 3,000. Ooh wee. You know, if you got rid of him, we could give you that extra 1,000.
That's still a thing too.
Oh, for real?
I know some people whose husband lives somewhere else and they live
Go ahead over there so I can get this assistance. But then when you do that, you take the leadership out of the home. And then now,
the oldest son think he runs.
well, not even that. When a man is not shown, if a young man don't grow up seeing a man, how do he really know what a man is?
Like. Yeah.
He's seeing his mama jump on the phone. He's responding to everything with a woman's energy.
And he's parentified.
Yeah. And but you can't do that. And then the children grow up to grow resentment. And so, you know, the government, it was in their best interest to break up the black man and the black woman.
So you think the government butt broke us in a different way?
1,000%, because I believe this. If we're going to run with the concept of the black man being a god, if everybody came here through a black woman, what the fuck are they? They amazing, nigga. That's what they are. They're absolutely amazing because they can make us. LeBron James' mama made this nigga just made him. Dr. Francis Cress Wilson says black men have the potential to eradicate every race on the planet through the highest form of pleasure without a weapon.
Oh, goodness.
We the niggas that don't know this. You know what it is. But that's how powerful we are. Your enemy know this, and they doing the intel.
Well, you know what?
In 50 years ain't gonna be no white people.
Well, you know what's funny, because when they invaded the Native Americans, and the thing that they said the way we can eliminate them, make them extinct is fuck them out of existence.
There you go.
They went in and started raping all their women and started having.
Okay, so here's the question.
That's how they did it.
Let's put this in the proper box. What did that do to people psychologically? Because see, the thing is, and when I have this conversation, okay, you went from shackles of the hands, shackles of the feet, to shackles of the mind. When you shackle a person's mind, you no longer need to shackle their hands, you no longer need to shackle their feet.
Mhm.
So now when you're talking about a community that's shackled in their mind, don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you're talking about an issue. Okay, so it's a matter of, okay, once I get you, even talk about Willie Lynch, that's what it was all about.
There we go.
Okay? So
There we go.
It was to get inside their head psychologically.
Mm-hmm.
And when you dupe them psychologically, it'll work for itself. You can sit back and watch the show.
Yep.
And see, so that's really so the issue is, so then we have to ask ourselves, okay, how can I get to a point? How does the community get to a point where they reach a point where they say, you know what? Let me get myself together psychologically.
Yeah.
Okay? Because this I can speak with my mouth.
Yeah.
But if I never change my behavior, then guess what? You're gonna have the same thing over and over and over again. Like we've talked on this whole number of times. It said, what did the old people do versus the old generation versus the new generation? People says, well, we've been talking about this for years and nothing has changed. Now here is the question: why haven't things changed?
Yeah.
Okay, because and then when you look at the why, then and now you can address the what. You can never come with the what when you don't even have a why or even understand the why.
Yep. Yeah.
And so the conversation that we're having is really, and we talk about trauma, how all this ties in together, to keep it consistent for the people, is a matter of psychological damage that's been done to a nation.
Yeah.
And that is how you deal with it properly. You can be angry about it. You could want to go to war about it, but guess what? In our community, who do we go to war with? Ourselves.
Well, when we look at, so we have to do what my sis would say, zoom out.
Yeah.
And when we zoom out,
Look at the picture.
we're able to see that everybody in this capitalist system is suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone is suffering. It just so happens when America gets a cold, niggas get pneumonia.
Yeah.
It's totally different. Things affect us at a way intenser rate.
Yeah.
It's just whatever word you want to put, that's what happens. And so I think we have to first become aware of that. And I'm not going to go all into it, but I'm going to just say this upcoming election, I've been telling my wife, I'm like, yo, I'm ready for November 6th, not the 5th, because I'm tired of the divisive conversation. It's just picking people apart. People are not talking to their mamas and daddies because, oh, you like that person? I ain't talking to you. What if they drop dead tomorrow? This is the energy this is the space y'all left off of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we have to understand that things are really geared toward, keeping people divided.
Right.
Divide and conquer.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, it works so good to the point to where they just got it on. They used to have to press play. We press and play now. They don't got to do nothing. They just,
It's a system that works for itself.
But you gotta also add a factor in there. With the psychological warfare, there's chemical warfare. So then you're dealing with the chemicals, the stuff they put in the foods, the stuff that, all the things that's going on in the water, stuff in the air.
Yep.
So we're breathing, eating, tasting, feeling, all this stuff is coming through. So now when you wonder why our children are so angry, why they doing things out of the norm, why they so more violent than they were then, because see, this is all into the chemical makeup.
Yes.
On top of the psychological.
Yes.
So with the chemicals, they can attack the emotions. They can attack the mental state. They can attack the psychological state. They can attack the way your motor skills move. So they got they got 5G towers up that send signals out, non-coherence. You can't hear them. How you got a dog, you blow a dog whistle. They got signals from there they can send out. It can disrupt people's mindsets,
and you don't even know it.
When you wonder why people act crazy, why there's road rages and stuff. They know how to. When you call them depopulation, how you depopulate? You got to commit. You got to do different things to cause injury, bodily injury, or to cause people to drop like flies. So you got a lot of different elements that they are using military grade style.
Absolutely.
So we're
absolutely.
So we're the only people that's not prepared for war.
Well, see, and again, that goes back to what I just said. Again, when you talking about chemicals and food and all that stuff, that affects everybody.
Everyone.
That doesn't just affect certain people. That affects everybody. So again, it's a matter of, then you said, but it affects us first. Now you gotta ask the question. Here comes that question again. Why?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
What is it psychologically that has occurred that caused us to do what we always do?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like when you think about the black neighborhood, how many bars on every corner? You know, why?
Right next to a church.
Yeah. So, but the point is, just because there's a liquor store on every corner doesn't mean you have to use it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay?
I get it.
It's like I said again. Okay, and we can come up with a whole lot of reasons why.
Yeah.
You know, we can say, hey, well, it's because of this, it's because of that, it's because of this, it's because of that. But again, when you have to look at what it's doing to the root of your psyche, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
That takes a. This is okay. What is a more pressing precedent that needs to be addressed?
But it seems like Black people are disproportionately impacted by everything that's supposed to be negative. Like anything that's, we're going to be the disproportionately impacted. So like, I guess for instance, like just going to the doctor a couple of weeks ago, my doctor was like, you need more vitamin D. I just stopped taking vitamin D vitamins for like a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, your vitamin D is low. And I'm just like, why is it low? She's like, well, the melanin in your skin. And that just made me think like, we're going to be impacted. Like our bodies can't absorb sun like a white person. It's just like we gonna be impacted regardless of anything that we do. Like,
let's
it's a fact.
What is look at?
The darker your skin is, the more less vitamin D.
Let's go back to the COVID-19 when it first came out.
Right.
It first came out. What did it attack first? The European nation.
Yep.
It was they kept saying, it was in Italy. It was in there. The Chinese was getting affected by it. So then all of a sudden they did a course of event. They did some studies and figure out how they can utilize it to come back to the Black community and only in America.
Yeah.
It didn't hit Africa like that.
Yeah.
It only went to America Black. And then they started telling it was our DNA.
Yeah.
And they talking about our health issues.
Yeah.
They started saying all these different things that target us. And what they did, it programmed us mentally to believe that this is going to target us more so. So our elders start really believing that it's attacking them. And guess what? They started to separate themselves from us because guess what that did? It stopped us from communicating.
There you go.
Now we can't communicate with our elders. And guess what we was doing? When they wanted to go see their elder, they just dropped something off at the front door and kept going. Do you know how many elders died because of the disconnect, the lack of communication, the lack of personal engagement?
Yep.
So we got to understand the psychological based on the chemical.
Yep.
So we're at a war, and if we don't know what we're up against because we don't study, like we need to know all Satan's devices.
Yeah.
This is all Satan's been doing this forever. This ain't nothing new. Ain't nothing new up under the sun. We just ain't. None of us just ain't studying properly.
I believe that a lot of us are studying, a lot of us are informed, a lot of us are intelligent, a lot of us are making the
Strides,
right efforts to change. The thing is, the negativity has a spotlight on it, and there is a flashlight on the positivity. You gotta bat signal on the bullshit. You want everybody to see the bull. You don't want to shine the light on nothing positive because negativity sells.
That's why you only get about 5 minutes of positivity on the news.
That's it.
At
At the end.
You get negative,
And it's very
sports.
minimum.
Yep.
This
Yeah.
is the positive story right at the end. I done disengaged.
And,
Yeah.
and you know what? And it's always focusing on us.
Yeah.
The news always tells about us. And that's why, you know, a lot of people get mad at me when I said that's why I liked about Trump, because he did inform us, because we was misinformed and uninformed. A lot of us was. And he informed us that the news is fake and they generate a lot of stuff. And a lot of people don't want to listen to that, but he's telling you something. He's bringing awareness. And he don't even know that he's doing it because it's in God's favor, not his.
And see, and that, yep. I'm gonna just leave that one alone.
I'm gonna come number 4. Do we believe we are the only culture with trauma and pain of slavery? Let me ask this. What about the other cultures, children, who had to bear witness by posing for pictures and was forced to participate in the brutal assaults?
Well, again,
You just mentioned it earlier.
I feel as if we can only speak about the calamities and the catastrophes that happen here. I know terrible things happen in Ukraine. Stalin did some terrible shit to his people. I'm aware we all know about the Holocaust. However,
the offspring of indentured servants.
However, there was a letter that was written by, wasn't it Roosevelt, who was the president during World War II?
Roosevelt,
okay.
Yeah. Lyndon Johnson.
Johnson. Okay, so he wrote a letter to Hitler and said,
No, Roosevelt. It was Roosevelt.
He says, "How dare you treat your people like this?" This nigga wrote back and said, "I'm doing him like y'all did the black people." So, you know, the rape and plunder and pillage and destruction is ingratiated into the fabric of America through capitalism, which is what we operate under. And to capitalize means somebody got to lose and somebody got to win.
That's right.
And we have been deemed the losers. That's just all it is to it.
Well, can you admit that we're conquered people?
Where we conquered that?
Yeah, I was about to say I can't say that. I don't want to admit that.
Well, in reality, of course, it's all about beliefs, right? Because historic beliefs. But in reality, we actually are the superior people, and we always have been. But we don't know how to not be, what's the word? Oppressed. Like we actually are like the better people. We're better.
So I always got to ask this question because people always try to elude that we're not conquered. When a people went over and built ships to go and take people, or even over here took people from over here and then took them to the West Indies, Brazil, whatever, or you took them from Africa and you brought them over here. That means that they had to go over there and conquer them.
Yeah.
Right? So when they brought them over here, they was conquered people. They was POWs.
Yeah, prisoners of war.
Yeah.
So then they gave them. Then as time went on, they always allowed their conquer people to have some type of citizenship. But the citizenship is only minute.
Yeah.
It's not as great as the conquerors. So. And then when the conquered people, you always find out how you want to go into the conquered people. You always go back, watch the ways that the conquered people act. They act like they're conquerors, and they do it towards each other. That's how you know when you're conquered.
That's crazy. You're absolutely right. Rousseau speaks about this. He's a socialist from Europe, and he talked about how a oppressed people
The oppression
want to remain oppressed because it's been infused in their psyche.
Okay.
And
now they're
we're not.
We don't
even get a chance.
A lot of us don't know, but we the only
There's
only a few.
The thing is that, again, it's like, do you want to be woke or do you want to sleep?
Some people
And,
still
you know,
But
hibernate.
now
and so
take that word.
because you think about it, you know, back during slavery, you know, you had your house niggas, you had,
Yeah, feel.
and guess what? There were those who were in the house
Mm-hmm.
who wanted to stay in the house.
Yeah.
There were those who were in the yard and wanted to stay in the yard.
And
Yeah.
then
It's
there was
like there were those who wanted to be free, who were not conquered mentally.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why they had their hands cut off and their feet cut off, because they refused to be conquered.
Yep.
They freedom was always on their mind.
Yeah.
So every opportunity they were trying to get away. But then there were those that said, "Hey, stop making trouble for us." Okay.
they called them Uncle Tom.
Yes.
But if you read Uncle Tom's Cabin,
It's
you'll
really
see a
about
He was a
Sambo.
Sambo.
It wasn't.
Yeah, it was a
It's
Sambo.
Sambo. Uncle
Yeah.
Tom was Uncle Tom was necessary.
Yeah.
So
Uncle
what
Tom
have we
was
been saying?
necessary.
What have we been programmed to say?
There we
Call
go.
each other
Uncle Tom.
And that's the misinformation.
So,
Yeah.
Misinformation.
so would we have been in the house or outside? Is that a curiosity?
We would probably have been outside, and then we'd probably be the one. We'd probably be the ones that want to
You know
escape.
how light you were.
I would have been in the house. They would have kicked me out. They would have put me out. This nigga keep going outside. Keep him out there.
And William Dorsey said, "Do we know about reparation?"
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Being paid to be oppressed. We not getting the reparations.
We're not going
And
to.
I'm saying that's the only way we should stay oppressed, and we was being paid to be oppressed.
Well, but again.
But we are being paid to be oppressed. They paying one of us. They pay the NBA niggas. They pay the entertainment niggas. Am I right or am I wrong?
You right.
And they're like, hey, tell them niggas fuck that.
Do the
bitch.
Bojangle for us. That's what they
there-
do.
there it go.
I actually
Do the
got a
Bojangle
news-
for
I
us.
actually got a news article sent from a friend, so he's a big fan of T.I. He said that he is retiring because he is tired of dancing around and rapping and bouncing around for people for money.
Yes.
That's literally
Bojangle.
Because you're selling who you are.
Yeah.
You're for sale. That's a fact. And until you reach a point where you make a determination that you're not for sale, how many people reach that point where they say, you know what, I'm not for sale.
Now,
It's like, will you refuse to take a promotion because you're not for sale, or will you take the promotion because you are for sale?
Yeah.
now,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
That's because it's like, hey, well, you know what? I know this is what I have to do. I got to step on this person to get to where I want to get. So, you know, and you're willing to do that. Now you're for sale.
Yep.
Okay. But if you say, you know what? If knowing that I got to do this, and this, I know these are the cost of, this is the cost of taking that position. You know what? I'm going to stay right here.
You lack integrity.
Well, you know,
lack integrity.
you know, it was funny because I don't think people they didn't read the story about P. Diddy, because a lot of people,
Gosh, which one?
because there was two occasions with P. Diddy.
Great story.
Now, the one story that P. Diddy started to revolutionize. He was trying to revolutionize all the black. He was gonna give Ice Cube and all of them, and they wanted to start their own black caucus, their own black political party.
Okay.
And he said he was gonna fund it himself. Now I got the video. And when he said that, then when he started saying that the liquor company was racist and you know he fight against tobacco, firearm, and alcohol.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a powerful company.
Yeah.
Those are people. Those are elites.
Absolutely.
And he said he was going to sue them because they was discriminating against him. Because he said he didn't want them he didn't want Ciroc just to be on
Hip-hop.
the urban.
He wanted
on the
it all
urban.
over,
He
yeah.
wanted to be distributed
I
for
heard that.
everybody.
I heard
And
that.
he said when they wouldn't do that and they wouldn't give him his own, they said George Clooney came in and was offered him $1 billion for that and made him an owner. He said, but when it came to him, they wouldn't do that. So he said, you know, he's seen the discrepancy. So he said, you know what, I filed a lawsuit against them.
Yeah, that's when
So-
he got so exposed about the free calls.
Yes. You know, so they went in to because under their contract, it was a contract they had. Only way they weren't gonna be able to pay him, they had that he could not have no felonies or nothing.
So that's the same thing Adidas did with Gilbert Arenas
Yes.
years ago.
Yes.
But it goes back to what you just said. Are you willing to do the Bojangles? Are you willing to dance for this
Yeah.
dollar? Are you going? Yeah. Are you going to tap dance? And the crazy thing is, fam been dancing literally since
In
the
the videos.
90s.
All
Yes.
in the
And you remember
videos.
P. Diddy, take that. You know, dancing. Doing the
Literally.
he was doing the Bojangle right in front of my face.
He just was doing the Bojangles in the video with his son.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
A couple months ago.
So we, and not, and it's not funny to see another one of our
Not
men
at all.
drop
Not
and
at all.
fall. And I wish that he would have known better, because
That's what I
all the
said.
things
But
he was
listen,
doing.
That's what I
Because
said.
power, money can do.
At this point, this is a whole movement. Unfortunately, we are witnessing of men in power being shut down.
But they're making black men the face of the movement. They're making R.
Yes.
Kelly, Puff,
And who's bringing us down? Our women.
but that's because
That's the killer
of the
part.
poison that they done put
Yep.
in the women.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like,
But at the same time, though,
Let her hear. Go ahead. Let her hear what you
if a
got to say.
woman is actually being victimized,
Right.
she should
Yes.
stand up.
Yes.
yeah, no,
No,
we're not saying that. No, we're not saying that at all.
Yeah.
No, she should.
But I really wish that people would take it back to old school, where people was just getting their ass beat for doing shit like that to people versus being fully.
Well, look what that one girl that was on it.
See, now that, what that does is, all that does is add to the trauma. Okay. The reality is that what we've never done, what we've never learned how to do, is communicate.
Yep.
Okay.
What goes on in this house stays in this house. That was what that hurt us.
That's why you have.
That's what hurt us.
That
That's
absolutely,
definitely what hurt us. You know, because,
absolutely.
like, we need help.
But
we need help, but we're not gonna go outside the house to get help.
And that was
so we're gonna stay-
incentivized.
we're gonna-
That's because we didn't have people that look like us, talk like us, and walk like us as people we can roll to and talk to. We always had to go through our oppressor to get help.
Well, but see, but when you
Right.
but when you look at
that's
that,
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
okay, but what I'm saying is, what stopped that? What stopped us, walk like us, talk like us, from being examples? Okay,
Money.
For us to be able to go to.
Money and power.
Okay? But again. So when you accept the payoff,
Yep.
okay, there's a trade-off.
I guess what I'm saying is, hypothetically, like, if Cassie had a big brother, why she couldn't just holler at him and he handled it? You get what I'm saying? Why it had to be a cool
Because-
boy? Now the whole world knows. It went from Cassie to freak offs and
Okay,
having
but
sex
look-
with everybody that
Right.
Because
that
again,
crossed his path.
But look at it like this. It's just like you know. I remember talking to a brother years ago, big brother. And he was talking to me about his daughter. I was working one of my jobs. He was talking to me about his daughter. He was like, "Hey, you know, everybody treat my daughter this, that, and the way, man. I'm gonna do this, do that." I said, I had a question to him. I had a question for him. And my question to him was this. I said, "So if you're behind bars, who's gonna protect her then?"
There you go.
Okay.
Mhm.
Then here's the next question. If that's the kind of stuff, you said it earlier, if that's the kind of stuff that she's choosing, what's the key? Will you get one out the way? What's to keep her from going to get another one?
That's why
Yes.
I was talking about with my sister.
You see
Yes.
what I'm saying? It's like you. That is a mindset issue.
Yes.
And until you address that mindset, it's like we used to have the saying, you know, you take a whole out the projects, we can't take the projects out the whole. It's the same thing. It's like, and that's not saying anything negative, but it's just it's simply saying, it's like, until your mindset changes,
It's embedded.
And
you're gonna continue to operate how you operate because you haven't changed your mind yet.
That cliche, not to cut you off, but that cliche, your attitude determines your altitude. That is so fitting in every aspect of life.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about daughters and sons, we can I remember there's an incident, you know what I mean, and I'm not trying to bring my kids just to tell their stories, but I remember one time my son got into it with somebody and he ran to me and said, "Dad, give me a gun." There was two choices I had to make. Either I give him a gun and let him destroy himself, or I withhold the gun and allow him to acknowledge that that's not the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
So either way it went, it didn't work in my favor because I didn't give him the gun. He was upset because he thought I allowed him. I didn't care.
Right.
That was not the reason.
Right.
But that's just their perception, is their own reality.
Right.
So it wasn't for me to explain why I didn't do it. I just said no. Let my no be my no and let my yes be my yes. But since I said no, I stood my gun. We didn't talk for a year because he was upset with me. He really thought that I didn't care. But guess what? My son is doing way better. He's doing well.
There you go.
He advanced in his understanding. He got a clear understanding.
There you go.
But I don't get that credit for that. The mom gets that credit, but dad don't get that credit.
Being the father,
but it's good.
Yeah.
It's good that someone gets it. That's all I don't really care anymore. First it hurt me because I'm like, man, I saved my son numerous of times, or I try to open up the door so he can communicate with me. He chose not, but they just take it like, like dads don't mean nothing out here.
Right. Oh well.
But we're the ones that's really actually the ones that protects them. But we get stepped on so much.
Statistics will say black men aren't involved, but then you look at the statistics because people will say it out of their mouth.
Yeah.
And then the beautiful part about the internet is information at your fingertips.
Yes.
So you can change their narrative at that moment.
Yeah.
And you can just pull up the facts. Well, surveys show that black men are not only involved, but they're the most involved when it comes to raising their children.
Yes.
So this whole story about, black men not being this and being that, that's that misinformation again. And
I can't say I wasn't absent. I wasn't an absentee father at one particular time in their life. But I never left a door closed.
Yeah.
I wasn't there because sometimes I always learned this. I learned this, through understanding that it ain't good to argue with your baby mom.
No.
And cussing her out and tell her what she's wrong at. Versus I'd rather just step back and wait till my son comes to me, then we can have my daughter, we can have a deeper conversation without annihilating the mother. I have better relationship with my kids now because I did not degrade their mothers, and I always uplifted their mothers.
100%.
I just try to get them to understand we think differently as parents. I said maybe shouldn't have had babies, but we did. So y'all here, it is what it is. So, but there's no way for me to annihilate her because she is a great mother, because most of them are great mothers, and they do their best.
Mm-hmm.
With so little, we had the saying that said, "We the willing do for the unknowing, as well as for the ungrateful."
Yeah,
that's just a big saying right there.
Yeah. You ain't gonna get your flowers all the time.
You ain't gonna get them. So you just gotta you gonna have to accept. You got to accept the bitter with the sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move this along to get number 5. So 7:30. Since we know that trauma and pain is present in our culture, do we believe it has affected our communication, our consistency, and how we commit to each other? Absolutely.
Yes.
100%, hands down. Being uninformed is a bad position to be in. I mean, you're operating in a deficit. Absolutely. When you're uninformed.
Yes.
So we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
Move on to number 6.
Yeah. Hey.
Okay, number 6. Knowing that we have deep-rooted traumas. Deep-rooted traumas and pain. Why are we afraid to seek help as an individual or as a collective?
Because we just talked about it. We was taught what goes on in this house stays in this house. And that hurt us tremendously in our community because there was times where we should have said something when we didn't.
Absolutely.
But we didn't. So let's look at we're all probably remember somebody or somewhere along we was coming up. Oh, don't leave the kids around them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a legal system that we trusted to be able to contact to say, hey, look,
he needs help.
He needs some help.
Mm-hmm.
She needs some help.
They need some help.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's going to happen is they're liable to come in and just wipe out the whole household, and the whole household ain't broken.
Yeah.
We need to just, this one little screw is loose.
Absolutely, I agree. Because I actually still believe in what goes on in this house stays in this house unless you're being hurt.
Yeah, and so
Meaning that my personal business is not for everybody outside. It's not. This is my home where I deserve privacy.
Mm-hmm.
but when you're in a space where, you know, when you cannot turn to the public services that are in position to assist you,
Right.
that's where this, oh, don't tell nobody.
So I have
You
a
know
good
what I mean?
example of that. So like my dad and my mom, they smoked weed growing up, and we, you know, in the 80s, 90s, we just not nowhere near legal. And my dad never explained to us why he didn't want us to be talking about him smoking. He just said, "This ain't for
Everybody.
conversation. Nobody don't talk.
Yeah.
He'll go like, yeah, my dad smoked weed." He always used to say, "Yeah, my dad smoked weed." Like he would say that voice, do that voice. So like he never told me he was doing anything wrong. He just told me that what he was doing was not for conversation. Like it was not for discussion.
Yeah.
And I respected that because I respected him.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and him smoking marijuana did not hurt me. He wasn't doing it in front of me. They did it behind a closed door. I never seen no joints, no blunts, no nothing. I probably smelled it.
Yeah.
But if anything, that smelled like an incense or something to me, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just like I still believe in that unless you're being hurt. If something is actually happening to you that's hurting you, you do need to tell someone.
Well, you know, it's funny you said that. You know, I had a different experience. It wasn't really towards me. It was towards my kids. So my son, I had my little son. I was raising him. So I used to leave him with my mom. So my mom would, you know, she would have him in the car, and she smoked like a chimney, and she had all the windows up and this and that. So, and I used to be like, I said, Mom, give the kids lungs. I had asthma. I don't know how I got asthma. I don't know if because you was smoking when you had me, but you see how it affected me growing up. I had real bad asthma.
Yeah.
So I don't want my son to have bad asthma or allergies because of your chain of smoking. Well, it's my car. This is my. He don't have to come around. That was her. But see, and this is what we talk about.
In that case, it was actually hurting him. Though.
Yes. But and not to degrade my mom, and because I'm using this as a teaching moment or a coaching moment. Not to say my mom was a bad grandparent. I'm just saying people get stuck in their beliefs,
right,
their traditions,
right,
and their understanding, where they don't look past the scope of work and say, okay, you know what? I can sacrifice something. Our community don't have a lot of sacrifices. You know why we don't have a lot of sacrifices? How we know we don't have a lot of sacrifice? Because our community is being gentrified.
Yeah.
And because we don't sacrifice nothing, we get nothing. So what you deposit into your bank account is only what you can withdraw back out.
Heavy.
So if we ain't depositing nothing here, why are we sitting there arguing and crying about what's going on? Because nobody's depositing anything. We don't buy our politicians like the other coaches do. New coaches coming over here from wherever coaches they come from, they know to buy politicians. They put their money in the pot and say, you know what, we need a politician. And they got a spokesperson, someone that can speak the language they appoint to. We can't trust people who we appoint because everybody's looking out for self. That's that conquered mindset.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about earlier.
This is what we're talking about.
When you're talking about happiness, that's a deeper level. What I'm talking about. That's why I call it selfishness.
Yeah.
When you're only concerned about your own happiness, not other-centered, but self-centered.
Yes.
That is called selfishness.
Yes.
And that's everything you just talked about is a perfect example of that right there.
And we talk about this all the time.
Yeah. You have to learn. You have to learn to consider others.
Yeah. Now
For a relationship to work, because look, on a relationship level, that's the minimum level.
Yeah.
But now you're talking about the level of politics. Okay,
Yeah.
you're talking about corrupted
That's a
politics.
broad brand.
You're talking about people that are only concerned about themselves and their own agendas and what they want. They don't care. They don't care. You talk about getting corrupted politicians in places that are not supposed to be for the people. They're not for the people. They're for themselves. So they're being paid by other people, and because they're getting their pockets greased with money.
Yep.
To go against you, and you vote them in to be a voice for you, but they're not a voice for you. They're a voice for somebody else.
They're a voice
who
for
grease
who's
their
paying them.
pockets.
Well, let's not be self-centered. Let's be realistic.
Uh-huh.
As a politician, and I'm trying to think on their level. You're in a position. You're appointed by your people to represent for representation.
Uh-huh.
So in this appointment, you need funds to elevate your career, your campaign, your career. The people who's voting for you ain't putting nothing behind them.
Right.
But you have a different culture who's backing money behind you.
Okay.
But you taking their votes over here, your people's votes.
Yeah.
But you're taking their votes and their money.
Yeah.
So who's gonna be whose interest you gonna provide first?
Well,
And I'm just saying that's just a bank. We gotta look at it from a bank perspective.
And I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, though. Okay. Be honest about yours.
Yes.
Be honest about what position you're representing there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sit up here and talk about you representing my position, and you're not representing my position. You represent their position.
Yeah.
But yet you get on TV and say you represent my position.
Yes.
But we gotta remember that it's all a game.
Oh,
Do you see? And if when you don't understand, how did the man say it? How did the man say? They made you believe. Why do you think they call it racing? Why do you think they call it race? But they made you believe you're not even racing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like we've been conditioned to feel like this way, this way, this way. And when you hear somebody say something that combats your belief, the first thing you do is, oh, what? You turn your nose up, and you're not susceptible to somebody else's idea.
Yeah.
And when you're not open-minded, you shut yourself off from ever advancing. And I think the enemy, not just black people's enemy, but people who are not of the 1%, those people know. I used to say this to the kids. I told my wife this. I told my son, I tell you, Applebee's, Olive Garden, Longhorn. I said, I'm gonna tell you and your sister to make a choice. And I said, who has made the decision? It was like, he said, we did. I said, son, I'm gonna ask you again. And I said, if I'm giving you these options, and I'm telling you, these are the options you and your sister have, but either one we go to, that's we're gonna go to dinner tonight.
Right.
He said, oh, you are. I said, thank you, because I'm okay with whatever y'all choose. It's an illusion. It's making you think. So it's fake.
Yes.
It's fake.
Smoking glass windows.
Because because I'm the one paying for it. When y'all paying for it, then y'all can decide something else.
Yeah.
So it goes back to that. If we are not, Dr. Claude Anderson speaks about it, and he says it's the illusion of inclusion.
Yes.
We have this idea that, oh yeah, we can make it, and affirmative action really helped white women more than anybody else. Yeah.
Remember Malcolm X said the ballot of the bullet.
Yeah.
The ballot of the bullet. Either we're going to pick one of them.
And you can't really fight in a rigged game by playing by the rules when you're the only one playing by the rules.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's just like that's just
you gotta let her have her moment so she can get that out the way.
You know, but you know it's funny because when we talk about um, our community and the way we think and the way I'm gonna tell you how if I was the politician and how I would look at the whole case scenario. I'm like, okay, they say black people spends
Mm-hmm.
3 point something trillion
Mm-hmm.
in retail. I can't even get them to spend $1,000 on my campaign.
Come on.
So you be thinking to yourself, you like, yo, you will spend things on fraudulent things that just so you want some materialistic things, so you can say that I made it. Versus, I got an agenda, I got a plan, I got something that's going to benefit us in the long run. Because what is a community? What do a community mean? It means that we come together as a collective for the better interest of everyone. So and that's what a family is, the same structure. So if you got multi layers of family into a community, that means that everybody should be on the same accord in some aspect of what we want to do to make this community prosperous.
So one thing I'm pretty sure we'll all agree on is when we look at our examples of our leaders, the black leaders, a lot of them have some type of non-educational background. They just have a platform. There is some type of entertainer that, oh yeah, yeah, we love Sam Cooke, and we know Sam Cooke was going to fund Martin Luther King and Malcolm X whenever they came together.
Mm-hmm.
So we understand that, but now we don't put a lot of emphasis on education when it comes to our people. It's cool. I remember being at school and I'm like, nigga, you know the answer? It's not cool to be smart when you black.
Yeah.
It's not cool to be informed as a black man.
It's cool to be disruptive in the classroom.
It's celebrated. It's celebrated.
And you wear it like a badge of honor too.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking to bro the other night. I've been in places where you hear motherfuckers saying, "Oh, nigga, I did more time than that." Time out. Why are we having a conversation over who was going off the streets the longest?
Yeah.
Like we are really screwed up, but it's somebody, and this is what I be trying to tell my kids, like there's somebody profiting off of all of this.
Oh yeah.
There is somebody profiting.
Look, it goes back to going to the movies, bag popcorn. Now they got the recliner.
That's
seats.
it. They watching it.
Sit back, watch it.
It's a joke.
Right, and laughing. Why? Because it's the best comedy going on.
It's the best thing going.
Right. That's the thing. And guess what? You're the show.
Oh,
well, you know, I always remember we talked about that. You know, it's almost like it's in psychology. It's talking about looking out. What's the difference between looking out a big picture window and looking through a peephole? More people can look through a peephole and see something quicker than they can look outside of a big picture window.
Yeah.
And see everything and don't see nothing.
Yeah.
So you can look out this big picture window and don't even see nothing, but you can look through a peephole and see everything. Why is that?
Because you're focused.
Yep. That was
You know
it.
what you want to see.
That was it.
So
You see what I mean?
That was it.
And that's. But like I said, that is where we have to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But see, getting to that point takes a willingness.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you're unwilling, you talk as if you are willing, but your actions say you're unwilling. So then you wonder why, as a people, we can't get together. You know why? It's the same reason how this whole conversation started. When you talk about being in a household where a kingdom divided itself it can't stand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, why? Because you have distrust in the room.
Yeah.
Okay, and until you deal with that distrust, it's like when you think about our community. Well, man, why won't people have their cars fixed on our side of town? Okay, why won't people do business on our side of town? Then you have to add you have to deal with the whys, and you got to be honest about the whys, and then when you deal with the whys, now you can get to the what.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but no one wants to talk about the whys.
No.
Okay, why? Because I'm not going to bring my car to you simply because you're black. I'm going to bring my car to you because I can trust that you're gonna give me the service that I deserve.
Yep.
Okay, I'll pay you. I'll pay you what you're worth. Not a problem. That's not an issue at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if I got to worry about all this other stuff when I bring my car to you, no, I'm not gonna bring it to you. Why? Because I shouldn't have to worry about all this other stuff. You see what I'm saying? That's important. Those are the whys that we got to deal with, and we got to be honest about that.
And that it's just in psychology. It's just like the highway of understanding. They call it the highway of understanding. The reason why they call it the highway of understanding because there's ways that people think. Some people think on a one-way street.
Mm-hmm.
They only go in one way.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got some people who think with a divider in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So people going this way and people coming this way. So they think like that, and they know there's a happy medium between that. Then you got some people who just don't know how to read the street signs.
Mm-hmm.
The signs are there telling you where to go,
mm-hmm.
but guess what you do? You overlook them because you're gonna make your own choices.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got those who read the signs and say, okay, either I'm gonna take the short route, I'm gonna take the long route. And we got that. That's what we got in our community. Mm-hmm. So we got to think about when if the community starts to understand, we got to understand which highway this person's traveling on. Right. Are they going to take the long route? Right. They're going to take the short route, or are they in the one way lane, or are they in the lane that one car is going this way and one going this way, but they got they know how to come to a happy medium. A lot of people don't know how to have a happy medium. So they either stay on the one way, or they stay at the point. I'm just going from the destination just to enter for myself. Right. I'm going where I want to go.
But see, some people have a one-track mind, though, too.
Yes.
Meaning that they don't know how to divert from. They don't know how to improvise. They don't know how to take a shortcut. And I'm one of them type of people. Mm-hmm. Meaning that once I start going one way, and I've been going that way, I'm gonna go that way all the time.
Well, see that
because it works for me.
Yeah,
that speaks to comfort. That speaks to comfort level.
Yeah.
But if it ain't working,
and but you get frustrated.
But you got to remember, you still got to stop at stop signs. You still got to stop at traffic lights. Right. You still got to yield. You still got to yield to deer crossing, human crossing. You still got to go through all these different measures, even though you're going on a same route. You still got to pay attention to those things because if you don't, you're gonna catch a penalty.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we have to understand that the things that we are doing, we're catching penalties because we're not paying attention to the signs.
Yeah. And that goes right along with reading the room.
Yes.
You got to pay attention to the signs, okay? Because if you don't read the room properly, if you don't read your audience properly, you're gonna miss the signs. So therefore, you won't realize when you done made a wrong turn. You won't realize when you done lost people.
Yes.
It's the same. Those concepts can be applied to a number of different ways. And see, and that's the thing is that you could know that's the difference between knowing something and knowing how to apply something. It. Because in one book I forgot what the teacher. I think the book is called "Teaching with Poverty in Mind." I can't remember who the author is, but in that book,
George something.
Talks about.
I thought his name was George something.
I know the author if I hear it, but I know that's not it. But it talks about fluid intelligence, and when we're talking about fluid intelligence. It's been able to take a simple concept, simple as when you were a child, you learn how to cross the street, you learn how to look both ways, and you take that and you know how to deal with the contract, you know how to read a contract before you sign it. Now you can take that intelligence that you learned, a simple concept, and apply in this area, this area, and this area, and that's called fluid intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Eric Jensen.
Okay.
Yep. That's it. That's what.
And what about the one in the psychology to say about the elevator of mindsets, where every person don't get off on the same floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so what happens is some people stay in the basement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then some go up to the 4th, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th floor.
Why do you think they stay in the basement? Those people.
It's just a comfort. You know, I think some people it's a comfort, or maybe the elevator, maybe it's just function where it can't go up another level.
So one thing I have learned, and I try to tell this to my children: you're going to come to a crossroads in life. I said, I'm not going to be in the car with you because I trust that you know how to drive now. When you come to this crossroads, you're going to make a left. Your GPS is going to say, go right. But you're going to look and you're going to see signs that say road work ahead. It's going to be storming. It's going to glass in the street, construction. You're like, damn, I got these new tires on this car. I don't really know if I want to go down there. And then you're going to look to your left and you're going to see sunlight, freshly paved road. I feel like we have to be able to be observant and see, okay, I don't want to put these foes on that gravel. I got 24-inch rims on my car. You have to know the value of yourself and know that sometimes you might have to take a detour, but the detour is beneficial because if you keep going down this path just because you're familiar with it, we have to disassociate ourselves with familiarity if it becomes painful. That's what I'm learning.
Well, and what you just said, growth comes through pain. Growth doesn't come through familiarity.
Right.
It's like going to practice. You know, you have to be deliberate about practice. If you go to practice for the sake of practice, it's like being a runner. If you used to run a mile in 5 minutes and you set your watch and say, okay, 5 minutes, boom, I should be done with this mile, right? So you get it done in 5 minutes. If you don't push yourself to get a better time, if you never push yourself to get a better time,
eventually
get that down to 4 minutes, get that down to 3 minutes, whatever the case may be.
Eventually, that mile gonna be 10-minute mile.
Because you're gonna stay at that comfort level. You don't realize that comfort keeps you stagnant. But pain is what disturbs you. It's like a clam, you know. When a clam gets a little piece of sand in there, and it turns. That's how pearls are developed. Pearls are developed through discomfort. Because of the discomfort, it releases a chemical to cover it over and over and over again, and it becomes a pearl. If you're a person that doesn't like discomfort, you will never grow.
But we have to get to, I think we have to get to a point to where if you tell me, hey Cal, don't go down the block. The trust that we were speaking about that's been broken with our people, I gotta be able to trust this brother, and I don't gotta know what I ain't seen over there. But he come tell me, I don't gotta care. I just gotta know that this is beneficial information. He's telling me, hey Cal, don't go down that street. Say less. Because I shouldn't have to, I can't experience all the pain. And a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. We have to get to that point of being able to observe, like, yo, Michael Jordan said, shoot 100 free throws in an hour. Well, if I'm trying to be like that, I gotta shoot at least 110.
Because you retire. But so now what you just brought up was a very good point. That's where discernment comes in.
That's
where you gotta have balance. Okay? To know when and when not. Both are necessary. But with wisdom comes knowing when and how to apply. And says, okay, this person right here, okay, I can trust them. I got history with them. And they're telling me not to go down that road.
I ain't
Boom,
going.
say less. I ain't going. We don't even have to talk any further about it, right? But if you're giving me reason to distrust you.
Now I'm like, what's
now I'm like,
down there?
What's going on? away.
Maybe you trying to keep something from me.
Exactly.
Or or it's like
Yep.
right. It's like coming together as a family,
Mhm.
and then people only want to hang with familiar family members.
Mhm.
It doesn't suit the purpose of us coming together as a family if you only gonna hang with familiar
The ones
ones.
that you know, right?
You know, you have to get out your comfort zone and intermingle, because you might have something in common with the other
There's
ones
no
that
point
you
in
don't
having a
know
family
that you don't know
reunion.
that you don't have
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
familiarity with.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times the reason why families are not as developed as they should be, it's because people don't want to come out of their comfort zone. They come they come with the intent to hang with the familiar ones, the ones that they more closer with, the ones they talk to on a daily basis, instead of trying to get to know others.
There's no point in having a family reunion if y'all not going to
Engage.
renew.
Yes.
Reunion.
Yes. Reunion and
Reunite.
engage. Because you have to engage. You have to engage with others to find out what you dislike and do like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You might, even if you dislike something about somebody, you got to know how to place that in an area where it's not a point where it's going to make you uncomfortable to be
Right.
around them.
Be able
You
to
just got to know
navigate
that,
through it.
okay, like my cousin, like him, I'll drink. He don't drink, but he will come still partake with me. But I never overindulge when because I'm not an overindulgent in
Right,
any way.
right, right.
But just the point, he doesn't allow it to make himself to feel discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people are like, oh man, Mike drinking,
Yeah.
Mike's bringing up, he's putting all this together. I don't want to come because Mike is drink. You know how people were, and I always tell people in the family when we put this thing together, I said, look, the object of bringing the family together is people come who they are.
Right.
Those who got the light, who are in the light, just like if you go in in the psychology world, you can look at it from the psychological lens. So think about this: you go outside right now, your house, your back porch is dark as hell. You flick the light on, wait 5 seconds. What happens?
Bugs all over the place.
Bugs all over the place. Attracted to what?
To the light.
To the light.
Yeah.
You don't have to. The light ain't saying nothing.
Yeah.
It's just shining what it is.
Yeah.
And if people are attracted to you, they're gonna come to where you at, and they're gonna learn from and they're gonna learn from you. That's the relationship part. That light could bring out some type of comfort. It can bring out some type of hope. You don't know what that light is doing to these insects. For some reason, they flowing around and like it is crazy, like there's something powerful or something magnetic to it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how your spirit is supposed to be amongst darkness. And I always say families are dark. They are very dark because why? Because people have been hurt by people in the family.
Yeah.
And some people haven't even been hurt. They just disconnect because they feeling what their mothers felt, or they taking on their mother's or father's fight.
Or they heard about the hurt.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why are you taking on your mother and your dad's fight? That ain't got nothing to do with you. Why would I take on my brothers and sisters' fight? That ain't got nothing to do with me.
That's where my loyalty lies.
Your loyalty lies on family. There is no separation between the family.
Right.
Because the family is all blood.
Right.
And it's one tree. It just has many branches and have many leaves.
But that would depend on the other person's perspective. Because some people they think about the nucleus.
Yes.
Family as family.
Yes.
And then they think that everybody else is extended.
Yeah, because
family.
everybody else is literally just cousins.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So we're like, hey, everybody's household, that's family.
But when we grew up,
outside, that's extended.
but you know what?
Aunts and uncles, you have your immediate family, mom and dad, brothers and sisters. Then you have your aunts and uncles. Then the rest of everybody else is just cousins.
But you know what? When we grew up, when it came down to fighting, it was cousins that fought together. My brothers and sisters too, but my cousins and fought. We all fought together.
Absolutely.
So they are just a part of my family. And as well, I had a couple of friends that lived in the neighborhood who was a part of that relationship.
Right.
So you have, what I mean? So I would say don't look through a telescope when you can look. Don't look through the life through a telescope and only looking at only a microscopic lens, only seeing microscopic things. Look from the microscope where you can see. The telescope where you can see broader instead of looking through the telescope. You know what I mean? Because you look through the microscope, you can see broader range of things.
Mhm.
But if you're looking through a telescope, you're only looking at for the organisms, the mechanisms, and how them things are functioning. So I'm looking at something where I can see movement.
Yeah.
I can see color. I can see this. That's what I want to look at. When I look at the family, I look at it from a color lens. I want to look at the color. I want to look at when the leaves are blowing. I can see it. And I can zoom in to see why them leaves are blowing. I say, oh, I don't see the wind, but I can see the wind touching the leaves. I can see when family get together, and I can see when I take this telescope, and I can see when families really operating as a family. I can't see the wind, but I can see the love that they sharing towards each other through the telescope. You know what I mean. So it's a thing that we have to kind of just. I wish family would just see more of in depth of what we can do, because once families start coming together, this family over here, they chain link with this other family right here, and this the chain link with this family over here. Now all of a sudden we got we got a community.
And then you have empowerment economically.
Yes.
You can't do it by yourself.
You can't. What was that the last?
That was the last one.
Okay. Okay.
We had a great time though.
Well, we had a great conversation. It didn't last as long. We did start late. I just want to say, man, it was a blessing having y'all here, man. I wish y'all would come back, because it was very, very poetic. But I always ask everybody to give a final thought for what they thought of today.
I definitely think that a lot of the things that we experience in our present, when it comes to our loved ones and our relationships, are a direct source of our past traumas. And we have to be intentional in the way that we behave now, that we don't continue to stay in the past.
Yes.
Like, you gotta let the past be the past and be intentional on working in our present so we have better outcomes, better futures.
I agree.
Yeah. I guess I'm gonna just say, the division is killing us, and we have so much more in common than we do differ. And if we could just focus on what we all have, we all want the same essentials out of life. And if we could just get back to that as a people, I think we could actually make some real progress. If we just just unite on something. If we could just agree on one thing, I think that'll just start the what's that chain reaction for others.
Yes.
You just gotta agree on one thing first. So.
Yes. Agreed.
Well, as I always say, communication is key. It's okay to let people know where you are. People can't deal with where you are or come get you from where you are if they don't know where you are.
Yeah.
The more specific that we can be about where we are, where we stand, what we believe in, that can definitely add to having or engaging in better relationships with people. And the other thing is that, remember, when you want to deal with something, you got to deal with it at its root. Don't deal with it at its surface.
Yeah.
Be courageous. Be confident. Be consistent. Be willing to go deeper and deal with issues at its root, so that you can reap the benefits.
Yeah. Well, y'all kind of like summed everything up. Y'all left me speechless. But I just always say that you got three things that our community focuses on, and I hear it all the time. It's I, me, and mine. I'd be like, man, okay, so I know if I got together with y'all two, then we become we. I think people don't understand that concept.
Yeah.
You can't stay with the I for the long period of time, but I has to come with others so we can become we. So then, me, yes, it's me, but this is about us because our community needs us to do more. Yeah, me has to come in with y'all so we can become us. And minds has to become ours.
Mm-hmm.
Minds is just, yes, I got my own household, but there's a household right next door to me, and there's two households right next door to me. There's a household down the street from me, next door to those houses. Then there's some across the street from me. So that's our community.
Yeah.
Even though it's my community, but it's our community. If we start thinking like that, replace the singular words and make them pluralistic words, I think we'll be better people. Pluralistic worlds help us see beyond self.
Yes.
I have to work on self, but I also have to understand that if my son's name is Ray and I'm trying to help him develop, but I see Pookie over there is non-developing because he got a broken home, my job as a community person has to go over there and snatch Pookie up and help him and help develop him and Ray together. That's how you fix a community. But if you look over there and say, "Oh, that's their problem, not mine," but then what happened when Pookie gets jealous of Ray?
I'm about to say that.
He kills Ray. Now you upset with Pookie. Now my family's upset with Pookie. The families that's attached with me is upset with Pookie and his family. And Pookie's family has their friends, other families. Now you got two divisions. Now you got a neighborhood. Two sides of the block are feuding with each other because everybody's picking sides. That's where we have to stop.
Yep.
We got to stop seeing mothers' faces stained looking like cheetahs because of the tears they have to lose for their child. As men are mourning silently behind prison walls because they wish that they could have taught their son something different. But since they didn't present nothing different, their son is mimicking off of them, not even knowing they died. Ain't that sad? There's a lot of boys in jail right now with their dads, with their grandpas, with their uncles, because genetically it's passed down.
Yep.
So we just say that we, us, and ours, love, life, and loyalty.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but the